Welcome back. We bring you these visuals which show the aftermath of Cyclone Michaung, which has devastated parts of Chennai, different parts of Tamil Nadu as well. Remember that it made its landfall in Andhra Pradesh. The situation in Chennai, unfortunately, has not improved despite 3 days after this landfall. Several parts of the city continue to be waterlogged and inundated. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh met the state Chief Minister, Mr. M.K. Stalin, as well. He also undertook an aerial survey of the flood-hit northern Tamil Nadu region and also parts of Chennai, held discussions with Mr. M.K. Stalin over the extent of damage that's been caused due to Cyclone Michaung. Unfortunately, there have been more than 20 casualties as well in the affected areas of the cyclone, both before as well as after it made its landfall. It's left a huge trail of devastation as far as damage to infrastructure is concerned and also to crops. So those are some of the visuals that you see on your screen. Our colleague Neha Hebale has been in Chennai, in fact different parts of Chennai, both in the build-up to the cyclone and thereafter as well. Let's listen into this report.
Well, it's been more than 3 days now since 2 workers, in fact, have faced a horrible tragedy over here in Chennai, wherein they were standing on a container vehicle, wherein the road caved in and 2 of those workers, in fact, collapsed into a trench that's nearly now being said to be about 50 feet deep. Now, this, in fact, incident took place owing to the aftermath of Cyclone Michaung. In fact, more importantly, I would ask my video journalist Mani to show you that for almost about 3 days now, there have been search operations that are being carried out over here by different teams, in fact, of the NDRF, of the state fire services and of the others as well. Now, with that being said, of course, the unfortunate part is that the family members of these, the family members of both of these victims over here of the cyclone have, in fact, staged a protest now. They're sitting here on strike for the past 4 days, saying that enough has not been done by the local administration here and that timely help was, in fact, not given to these workers. Remember, on day 1 of the cyclone hitting, we were at this very spot bringing you a report about how teams of NDRF divers had, in fact, been sent inside this trench to try and grab a sense of where these 2 workers who, in fact, died in this unfortunate tragedy may have been.
So that was a ground report by my colleague Neha Hebale, who's also joining us live on the broadcast, because now the focus is on ensuring that relief materials reach those who have been stranded. Neha, what's the situation there?
Well, Pratibha, you can see the manner in which, we're seeing that several people, especially who live on the outskirts of Chennai, remain cut off from, basic necessities, whether it's been food, milk, water. These are essentials that are, of course, required for every household. There's not been power in many parts of Chennai. Electricity remains cut for nearly 4 days now, of course, as a precautionary measure until water drains out completely. And here, what you're seeing is, in fact, people, of course, queuing up to try and collect these relief materials that are being distributed over here. Evidently, of course, there is still a big part of Chennai that remains underwater right now on the outskirts, areas like Velachery, areas like Adyar, and, areas like Perumbur as well, where people are unable to even get out of their homes to be able to go out and buy these basic necessities, and which is why there's so many efforts being put in, whether it's by the local administration here, whether it's by volunteers, these activist groups. Of course, while these parts of Chennai are, of course, expecting that things would get better in a couple of days, as you can even see now what the Cyclone Michaung has left behind, just the ruins of this. There are massive tree falls that have happened in a lot of places. Many roads, in fact, have caved in completely. And until such time that things do not get restored to normalcy, we're possibly going to be seeing these scenes continuing at least for the next 4 or 5 days. Of course, the important thing here is that we've seen a meeting today between Union Minister Rajnath Singh there from the central government, along with the state government, Chief Minister here, M.K. Stalin, and while they're saying that combined efforts are being put in to ensure that people are, not really inconvenienced, things on ground still remain quite grim in many parts of Chennai.
Okay, all right. All right. In fact, Neha, you've been there over the last few days as well. And, what has been the response of the people? You've also spoken to several residents. Today, like you mentioned, Rajnath Singh is in the city. He also took stock of what the situation is like. The BJP workers have also been talking about giving out relief material to the people, with questions also being raised on the government. Has enough been done on ground? Because every time it pours in Chennai, these areas get completely cut off. And that's the situation this time around as well. Of course, it's only been aggravated because of the cyclone, but this has been a persistent problem in areas within Chennai where when it rains, these areas are cut off, and several of these residents have to live without electricity, no food and water for days on end.
Well, that's right, Pratibha. We'll try and, speak to a couple of people here if possible, who can give us a sense. Sir, excuse me, sir. Sir, can you tell us how bad is the situation every time it rains? This time, is there power?
Every rainy season, we're facing all those problems. This year, it is very, very great problem. And the water for the last 3 days, we are suffering here without anything. Now only you have come here and gave all those things.
Has the government been responsive, sir? Has anybody from the administration come down, met you?
We made a complaint and the complaint has been registered, but they were told that they will give water, but not yet responded. Now we are giving water to bottled water. Thank you.
You heard it there, these are people who have little children. We've seen very, moving visuals of babies being rescued from these homes, senior citizens who are being inconvenienced. And, you just heard it here from this gentleman who went on to say that for almost 3.5 days now, they've not had something as basic as drinking water. That these are the first 2 bottles of water that they've received in 3.5 days. Very, grave, of course, the situation here that continues in Chennai. And more importantly, of course, while we're seeing that there has been a long-drawn battle that's been going on between the state and the centre over relief material, over aid that needs to be given, of course, the situation is that while there's finally some help reaching, did it really have to take this long? Yes, this was an unprecedented situation. Chennai has not seen rain like this in many decades, is what experts have said. But even so, could there have been more that could have been done? Even now, we're seeing from this gentleman here who says he's lodged a complaint. Earlier in the day as well, we saw a school teacher there gherawing, a group of 3 ministers there questioning as to why, she's being heckled while she's trying to address them. And a host of issues, of course, but the biggest challenge right now that remains over here is for the people on ground. We'll try and, get in a word, of course, from one more person here, if possible, if we can speak to them. Ma'am, how bad is the situation over here? Well, of course, evidently, Pratibha, even as this truck continues to move right now, we will, of course, stay put here, bring you all of these updates. But the fact is that as the situation remains grave, we're just hopeful that, the administration, of course, takes stock of this and things are done at the earliest to give these people some respite. Back to you.
So rescue mission now continuing with, as we're seeing in our visuals as well, relief material being distributed to people across Chennai. These are areas that have been cut off. In fact, in several of the houses, there was no electricity for several days. The residents there complaining that adequate measures had not been taken. This is, of course, the aftermath of the cyclone, but the question being on the preparedness from the government side as well. And these are scenes that we have witnessed over the last 2 days. And there has been no improvement in the situation whatsoever, as you're seeing on the roads as well. Absolute waterlogging with no signs of the water levels receding. Neha, you've also spoken to the government officials on the preparedness and the questions that they are facing on the preparedness, and what is it that they have done? Any word that has come in? Because M.K. Stalin was also in touch with several of the officials, and he had said that the situation would improve, but on ground, clearly it does not seem to have made much of a difference.
Well, that's right, Pratibha. In fact, what we're picking up is that, yes, while the Chief Minister here has instructed more ministers and more of his officials to be on ground and take stock of the situation, there are many such areas which are still completely inaccessible In fact, we're seeing boats being sent out over here. We're seeing the manner in which, people are having to wade through water for kilometers, through the sewage water just in order to be able to access some, normalcy here, if they can at least step out, pick up some groceries. And this is the situation now after 3.5 days that water has finally started to drain out in most areas, that, there finally been some attempts over here, to actually send out food. Now, it wouldn't, of course, entirely be right to say that the government has completely ignored the people, but the fact is some areas, some pockets of Chennai, especially the outskirts, have been left unattended, and that is a result of what you're seeing on your screens right now as to how people are, just queuing up over here in order to be able to get just basic necessities. These are water bottles, milk packets, bread and buns which are being distributed. Possibly many of these households have not even had electricity, for the past 4 days almost, and efforts coming in from all corners right now, political as well as apolitical, to try and ensure that these people over here, are given some sort of respite.
Okay, all right. So look at the visuals on your screens. These are visuals from different locations across Chennai. And today, the Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh was in Chennai. He also spoke to the media on the current situation. Listen in.
Very distressed. Honorable Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi is very distressed by the loss of lives in Tamil Nadu. Prime Minister Sri Narendra Modi is personally overseeing the response to the current crisis and has spoken to the CM, Honorable Stalin also. He has asked Minister of Home Affairs and the Cabinet Secretary to deploy all necessary resources, human and material necessary resources, for assisting the people of Tamil Nadu. I have also been directed by the Prime Minister to personally monitor the situation here and the appropriate response required. Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, Meteorological Department, NDRF, all central agencies have been doing the best they can to mitigate to the current crisis. Friends, to take stock of the situation, I took an aerial survey, followed by one-to-one meeting with the Honorable Chief Minister and a review with the officials concerned. Together, we are putting up an effective response to the situation here, and hopefully we will improve it upon further wherever gaps and weaknesses are there. On behalf of the Prime Minister, let me assure the people of Tamil Nadu that the Government of India is committed to their well-being, a commitment which is reflected in the special attention being paid by the Government of India agency to address the disaster visited upon the people of Tamil Nadu. Honorable Prime Minister has directed Ministry of Home Affairs to release the second installment of 450 crore to the Tamil Nadu State Disaster Response Fund. The first installment of the central share to the SDRF amounting to rupees 450 crore had been released earlier.
All right, going back to Neha Hebbale for that update. This was the Defence Minister. Remember, he had taken an aerial survey of what the situation is like. We're also getting you live visuals of the relief material that is being distributed to the residents. That also gives a sense of what the situation is like. And the rescue and the relief material distribution continues. Neha is live with us. Neha, would you be able to speak to some of the residents there to ask them what the situation is like? And, as you've been showing us, the relief material is now reaching the residents. But I'm sure over the last 24 to 48 hours, they've also faced a lot of inconvenience because of the fact that there has been no communication outside, no electricity being cut off, even the essentials being completely cut off for several of these residents.
Well, Pratibha, that's right. You know, network is down. Phone lines are not working. Government helplines are, of course, you know, constantly engaged and with no electricity and no means to leave their home, and several of these homes waterlogged. People have really faced, you know, the most harrowing time here. We're going to try and, you know, speak, of course, you know, to some people, if we can, at least over here, you know, who've gathered right now to understand the situation. Sir, can I ask you, sir, how bad is the situation over here?
Very bad situation. Last 3 days, no power. Very bad situation. Now only water and biscuit and all supply.
So how have you been managing your cooking and, you know, without power, you've been stuck at home. How have you been managing?
We didn't cook for last 3 days because of power supply. Last today only power.
Has nobody from the government come to help?
No. Nobody.
In this entire area, nobody.
Nobody.
Okay.
Actually, this area we got flood in 2015 also. In 2015, up to that boat level water was there. This time also water was there. You are the first vehicle coming this area and giving this relief material.
Okay, so the residents there speaking about how the situation has not changed over the last few years, and it was unpreparedness from the government because of which the residents have been suffering. Neha, thank you for joining us with that update. We'll continue coming back to you for those updates as it remains a top focus here on Times Now.